Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Film Frauds, where myself, Matt, and my co-host Tyler
Hello.
provide our completely unprofessional, 100% biased opinions on the movies of today, tomorrow, and yesteryear. Today, we are continuing our clearing out our watch list series. Tyler, I don't know about you, but I'm really good at adding movies to my watch list, but when it comes to knocking them off, I kind of have a lot to leave. I leave a lot to be desired. My watch lists on Netflix, HBO Max, Letterboxd just get longer and longer, and I will probably just end up rewatching The Suicide Squad instead of knocking up any of the movies that
The bad one too. The not good one.
oh yeah, the
Yeah,
not good
that
one
yeah.
too. Of course, the not good one. So I constructed this series through my own genius brain to allow us to, start chipping away at that Mount Everest of our watch list. And so last time we did this about 7 months ago, I think.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I recommended Flame and Citron in the Dreamers, and you recommended Taking a Pelham one,
No,
two, three.
no, that was a different one. Wait, did I? Was Taking Pelham 1, 2, 3
No, because
mine?
you'd already seen it. That was your rewatch. What did you recommend?
I
Oh,
did The Cure,
yeah, The
Cure,
Cure
which you fucking hated, which I did,
and The Long Goodbye, which is amazing.
which is awesome. Yeah, which I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago. I actively think about that movie sometimes.
Yes, I know that movie. I want to rewatch. I think that was the best of the last picks, I
I
would
think
say.
Cure was, but Long Goodbye is
Okay.
probably the most fun.
Yeah,
Let me.
Long Goodbye, I think was the most thought-provoking in the movie. That yeah, I too think about every once in a while. That was a sick scene,
I
like things like
must
that.
I must say, our choices the first time around, consistently across the board, all really great.
Yeah,
Um, I think when we talk about these choices, some of these are a little bit interesting, but also I want to say, like, I liked your intro on that because it sounded like you're about to sell like an infomercial. You're like, do
yeah.
you guys ever add too much to your watch list? Duh, duh, duh. Yeah.
This is Maddie the man selling you a used car.
Filled with your watch list.
So that's the thing is like our clicking on our watch list, there's no connecting theme really. It's just kind of movies that we find interesting. We're gonna try to keep each conversation to about 15 minutes and make
Yeah.
them as non-spoiler as possible. The conversations will center around three questions: why the movie's on our watch list, what we thought of the movie, and do we recommend it to our film
I
Fraudians?
forgot about that part.
Yes, I actually rewatched our podcast for the
How was
last
it?
the last
How
one,
are we?
and I completely forgot that I had those three questions as
Yeah.
well. It was
Yeah.
good. I thought it was a solid episode.
Okay.
Um, so let's get into it.
Yeah.
We'll start with my first recommendation, that being Under the Shadow of the Moon.
It's a normal, boring shift. Too much, Dad?
It's like a puncture wound. Boys across town just got two more bodies. Said both had some kind of mark on their neck.
Is
A
that what it's
movie that I
called?
wasn't necessarily going to propose for this
In the
episode.
Shadow of the Moon.
Oh, In the Shadow of the Moon, whatever.
Yeah.
A movie I wasn't necessarily going to recommend until I said it to Tyler, and then he looked at the plot description and he giggled for 5 minutes straight. And so that's why we chose it. And so why I chose this movie or why I had this movie on my watch list to begin with was because it's directed by Jim Mickle, who directed one of my favorite movies of the 2010s, that being Cold in July, which we did for um re um
No.
our renaissance of film frauds
Yeah.
a year ago,
Oh
pretty
my
much.
God.
We
Wow.
rebooted film frauds a year ago. So Cold in July, I think, is the most underrated movie of the 2010s. My mid take is that Jim Mickle is the best director of Nighttime in the Rain. My slightly hotter
Okay.
take is that Jim Mickle is like the best nighttime director of all time.
Okay. Interesting.
Cold in July, I think, was amazing. And I think what made this movie amazing and what ultimately made In the Shadow of the Moon a very bad experience was that Cold in July was based off of a novel. And so it has Jim Mickle's visual flair while also having a story that makes sense. And is like somewhat grounded in reality, has good characters. Whereas I think In the Shadow of the Moon is the Jim Mickle original, and
Ugh.
which is ultimately where it is bad. And so the general thesis of the plot is it's about a serial killer who crosses dimensions and time and every 9 years, what's his name? Boyd
Boyd
Hastings,
Holbrook,
Boyd
Holy
Holbrook
Groat.
has the opportunity to confront her, and then doesn't in
And
the
then
movie.
just
And there's also really heavy-handed themes of racism that
yeah,
is ultimately trivialized by the absolute absurdity of this plot. It's so funny because we watched Civil War the same day
the
as this
same
movie,
day.
and they
Yeah.
both are about civil wars in the close in like the near future. And Civil War handles it in a much more mature way than this movie does.
Yeah.
Tyler, you giggled when you read the plot to this movie, and ultimately to appease you, I chose it. What was this journey worth it for
This
you?
movie sucks. This movie's
Okay,
awful. It's so
okay,
bad. I remember when we made that decision like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm like, these are the movies we're gonna watch. Like, let's lead up to it and stuff. Remember, Olive and I we started Mindhunter and we were like scrolling through Netflix and this movie came up and the synopsis even got her. She's like, oh, it sounds pretty cool. Like, oh, serial killer. Like a detective is trying to solve these crimes that seem like they have a supernatural element to it, and you're like, that sounds sick. Like, that sounds awesome. Directed by Jim Mickle, Cold July fucking rocks. And then you learn about this movie, and it premiered at Sundance, and then a week later was a Netflix movie. Um, so it's a Netflix movie, and when you get Netflix movies, you either get genuinely good art by directors with talent who have an unfettered vision that Netflix is just like, fuck it.
yeah.
Here's $250 million, Zack Snyder. There's
That
Rebel
new
Moon.
the new Rebel Moon movie came out yesterday, like, and I groaned because I was like, "Oh God, I have to watch this movie and pretend like I liked it."
There's a scene in there that is reminiscent of Julius Caesar, where the emperor, spoiler alert, I don't give a fuck, nobody watches the movie, has a 13% Rotten Tomatoes, gets like
Did
assassinated
you
like
watch
Julius
it?
Caesar. I saw the scene on Twitter, and
Oh, okay.
it looks awful. But basically you get two camps, or actually technically three. You get kind of like disposable, decent movies. Like, think like Triple Frontier. Like,
I consider that garbage, but yeah, like
you would?
runs of the
Okay.
mill.
Yeah, like run
Like
of
I
the
think
mill,
Extraction 2 is like a
perfect.
solid movie.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
perfect dead center. Like, you know what you're getting. You get genuine art, and then you get whatever this is, where it's like four different movies. Nothing really makes any sense. The plot is kind of incoherent, and then it kind of ends, and it's just dull and boring and bland. And you just are left wondering, like, this is a really talented director who can like very much convey like very fascinating, dry neo noir style. Like, what the fuck happened here? It's really bad. Like,
I
what did you
think
think of it?
I think the worst part of the movie is that like I liked the first 45 minutes
I
of
think I like
it.
the first 20 minutes. I think I'm like
Okay,
a
so
20.
like what was I basically I like the first like the 1990s stuff.
Yes, me
Like
too.
when the serial killer is everything's like shot at night, and again Jim Mickle is just phenomenal nighttime shooter with his lighting.
Yeah.
Like when they're chasing the serial killer through the alleyways, and like all like different streets have like different neon coloring. And
Yeah.
I just think of like the final shootout of Cold in July, where it's like the same vibe, where like every room has a different color
Yeah.
pattern to it, and
Yeah.
it goes, "Who the fuck are you?" And he gets his head shot off.
Yeah.
Um, like that stuff, it kind of reminded me of Seven. Like I feel like the city was really well built. It was very grimy.
Mm.
In one way, there's like the stupid melodrama where like he goes and sees his wife as she's giving birth, and she's like, like, she's so happy that he's there. And so like that stuff was kind of like it kind of alluded to how melodramatic the movie was going to become later on, and I was hopefully naive up to that point that it wasn't going to. I
Yeah.
I liked um so there's this actor Bokeem Woodbine who plays the detective's partner,
Yeah.
and he's a phenomenal actor, and he's really good. And I think him and Boyd Holbrook have good chemistry. Like they're like talking about stuff, and he's like, I gotta cut myself down to a pack a day when he's running, and he's like out of
I,
breath.
I think if you
Um,
watch Spencer Confidential, you'll have a different thought on his
well,
acting
he's in
ability.
Fargo season 2, and he's phenomenal in
Is he
Fargo season
really?
2. Yeah, he's
Okay.
amazing.
Okay.
Um, so that's and Michael Z. Hall is in this movie as well, who was the main character of
Yeah. He's
Cold
not
in
in it
July.
enough.
No, he's good in it,
Yeah.
and he's not in it enough. And it's like the first 25 to 30 minutes are really good to me.
Because it's a
And
murder
then
mystery. You don't know what's going on. There's no plot has been revealed.
and
It's
but it feels edgy too, like like innocent people are getting murdered, and it's
yeah.
like it kind of takes place in like this grimy area of the city. And
Constantly
Jim Mickle,
raining.
yeah, Jim
Constantly,
Mickle
yeah.
is such a great, nighttime shooter in the rain. Like I always think of like when when Michael when like when Sam Shepard is the antagonist of Cold in July when like he's gonna come to the house and
Yep.
it's like pouring rain. It's like it almost looks like acid rain because it's all like blue. It's
Yeah.
so great looking
It's
when it's
well
like
done.
hitting the windshield and everything. It's such a great looking movie. And that kind of gave me similar vibes here where like Jim Mickle is like just like shines when he's working with lighting. And the movie just becomes so absurd, but like so I don't know
Dumb.
if self-indulgent is the right word, but it thinks it's being important and profound, and it just comes off
Yeah.
as more immature to me.
So we have to spoil this. I know we said not, we're gonna try not go, but like
Yeah,
it's impossible movie to really like criticize because a lot of our criticisms come with everything after the first 30 minutes, I'd say.
yeah,
So we both don't recommend this movie. It's pretty garbage. If you're gonna check out a Jim Mickle movie, go watch Cold in July.
yeah,
Spoiler
yeah.
alert for In the Shadow of the Moon. It's revealed that every 9 years, this person is coming back from a fixed point in the future to kill. Um, is it the people who influence a racial terrorist attack in
People like who's like
2024?
children or something like will give birth. Like
Yeah.
it's like the quandary of like if you could kill Hitler's parents or kill Hitler as a baby or something.
Yeah, like do you stop that
Yeah,
like stuff from happening? And it's revealed because the whole point of the movie is you follow Boyd Holbrook, who is constantly the same age until he's just put in randomly old guy makeup.
yeah. They just make his hair longer.
They should make his hair longer and facial hair, and he looks the exact same. Which sucks because Boyd Holbrook can be a good actor. He's really good in like Logan.
Yeah,
He can be good. He can be. This is the type of movie he should excel in. But it's revealed every 9 years the person comes back, and it's his granddaughter, and
yeah. His
he
granddaughter.
and he's the
Um,
one that is the reason she is going back in time and killing people.
she has a little time traveling spaceship that fills
That
with
drowns
water.
her. Yeah, that drowns her, I thought.
Yeah. But then he kills her, and then
That's true.
he's like I killed my granddaughter in the future
I
in the
forgot
days
it.
of future past. It just like I understand time travel movies fundamentally don't make any sense, and I'm not trying to be like like a cinema sin like this would make sense, this would make sense, but it's like it thinks it's just so melodramatic.
Yeah,
Like for this movie, I would have been fine with if it just took place in like one or two time periods, like maybe like 9 years and 9 years.
nine
It
years,
kept its
9 years.
dark tone, and it didn't make the serial killer his
Yeah.
freaking granddaughter who is trying to solve racism by murdering innocent people.
and and then make it folk like that's a inherently like to be like there's a time traveling girl who's going back in time to kill people to solve like to stop like a genuine civil war. But then they
Yeah.
make it on this like old ass cop, this Boyd Hoiberg character who's not that interesting, who's just obsessed. And that's it. They take the more interesting element and then just put it in the background and then give you
Yeah.
like this thing at the end where they're like, it's you and me until the end. And our journey is just, and you're like, this is not earned.
There's
What
that
is
stupid
this?
scientist guy who's in the van, and he's like, if you could, like, he's trying to make, he's like doing the exposition stuff, where he's
Oh,
like, if you
yeah.
could save the world, would you kill 30 innocent people? And I'm like, you've lost me at this point.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
this
like the
movie,
trolley
and,
problem or
and
whatever.
Boyd Holbrook is like, I'm the crazy old man character
Living in
now.
my car and but like it's I love scenes like where he goes to see Michael C. Hall in the diner and he's like, so the lunar cycle, and you're like, dude, you're like, what? Like it's just a bad movie.
It's like I feel like there's like a middle 45 minutes that I have no recollection of as well. Like it was
When do
so
they
bad
skip
that I
the
can't
night?
remember anything that happens.
Because Maddox dies. He gets shot in the face, which honestly I was like, yeah, there's that violence. Like that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. It's blasted in the face. But is that like the middle 9 year gap? Because there's that section
No,
where
it's
he
a
like
second 9 year gap. So the 9 years happen, then the 9 years come back because when she kills the partner, he doesn't know anything yet about the time
oh,
travel
and then she
stuff.
puts him in like a plane, and you're like, how'd this plane get away?
Oh,
What?
yeah.
Where are they? And then she kicks him into water. I was like, he would die, like he would be dead.
Yeah.
They're flying, and he gets
I
punted
know.
into water, and then she crashes, and she dies again, or does
I
she
think so.
escape? And then because like they constantly are harping like her journey goes until the point in the first 9 years where she dies, right? Like that's where this character's life ends. But I
Mm.
thought she died in the plane crash too.
It's just like it's just an example. Everything is so unnecessarily convoluted.
Yeah.
And it's like you could just tell this like edgy, a little silly tale, like this crazy serial killer who like travels time in this like
Yeah.
oppressive, ugly like city setting. but no, you have to just add so many layers that don't need to be there.
Yeah.
Like Cold in July is a fairly simple story.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it has good twists to me. And it's almost like a Greek tragedy where it's like the father has to recognize that his son is too far gone, and part of
Yeah.
that is his responsibility. He has no choice but to go and put him down because
Yeah.
he's done like the ultimate egregious thing.
But that's the
And
second. That's what the plot.
yeah, that's the
becomes,
second
the
act
plot.
of
Yeah. But there's a natural progression from like the start of like a home invader,
yeah.
violence gone wrong, where we've gone outside the norm, to like a acceleration of violence from home invasion, self-defense, murder, to we have to kill my son because he's like kidnapping and raping and committing snuff films. Like
Yes.
there's like a progression to it, and that's the point of the movie.
And it makes sense. The progression
Yeah.
makes sense. It never loses its like realism.
Yeah. And then this
It's all about like family. It's about family.
It's about family.
Yes.
Family. But then like this is like it's Netflix, because like I think we talked about this like when we recorded, we had already watched this, and there's like a chase scene in the middle of this movie that's shot and like lit. Like this movie's horribly lit. It's got that Netflix like overexposed.
The first 25 minutes, I would say feel like a Jim Mickle movie, but then
Yes.
after that, like he's shooting in the like Jim Mickle should not be shooting in the daytime.
No.
Like the second half of the movie all takes place like during the day, and it looks
Yeah.
so
It
bland.
looks awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Yeah, I don't know. It's like this is the type of movie that like will in like 5 years will be like, do you remember that movie? And we'll both be
Yeah.
like, no.
Be on my Letterboxd. I'm like, wait, I watched this movie.
Yeah,
in
like what
April
the fuck is this?
2024. Why
Yeah.
did I?
Why do we do this? What is the point? Is there anything outside of the first, like, let's say 25, 30 minutes? Is there anything in the last hour and a half that's redeeming to you? No.
Just like, I mean, Michael C. Hall is great. Like, I just love watching him act.
Yeah, but he's like,
But like,
barely-
it doesn't redeem the movie. I did
Yeah.
like it when like Bokeem Woodbine is like freeze bitch, and then gets like immediately murdered.
shot in the face. Yeah.
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 That was pretty funny, but no, it takes itself way too seriously.
Yeah. I can never forgive the eye roll I had when we get that like speech at the end, and she's like, our
Yeah.
journey is just, and I'm like, you didn't earn this. Like, it's not, and also it just doesn't, it's just stupid. They try to solve racism by making it about like the white cop
Yeah.
and being the hero.
It's like Killers of the Flower Moon, where it's like all about the white people.
It's not all about the white people. That's every episode. Someone's gonna take that too seriously.
Where there's like one scene in 3.5 hours where Native Americans exchange dialogue between one another, and it's
You know
about
what?
white people. I'm talking about white people.
I think you know what? We're gonna go back and we're gonna rewatch that together. I'm gonna come to your house.
I'm
gonna
not
sit you
committing
down.
3.5 hours to that jerk off fest.
Well, Matt, to answer your own questions, this was on your watch list because of Jim Mickle.
Yes,
worth
I
it?
don't recommend people watching it.
Okay, I agree. The movie sucked. It was just so
Yeah.
bad. It's so disappointing because that was like, you were more generous. I'm like, my estimation of it in my mind is just sinking every day. I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah, I just love Jim. I just love Cold in July so much that like I saw what he was going for, and I can appreciate Jim Mickle's talent. But yeah, the script was a miss.
Yeah, this sucked. Did you hear about this movie when it came out though? Were you
No.
familiar with it? Yeah, neither did I. I don't remember this at all. Direct to Netflix. There it goes.
I never even like saw it scrolling. Like I remember I was looking at Jim Mickle movies just to see like what else he had made, and I was like, what is this movie? And I learned to search like in the shadow of the for it to finally pop up.
and then it was like the fifth option. And you're
Yeah.
like, what is this?
Did you mean Killers of the Flower Moon? No,
Yeah.
I mean that.
No, you're like, fuck. Give me Jim Mickle. Yeah, that was like all of and I were like deep in the annals of Netflix, like 8 minutes into a scroll before we're like, huh,
Yeah.
what is this? Okay. Well, yeah, the movie sucked. All right. Bad choice, Matt. Bad start. This is already. Do you remember the ranking? So the last episode was, it was probably for me, Cure, Long Goodbye, Dreamers, Flame and Citron. But Flame and Citron is like a really high 3, like
Yeah.
a really 3 out of 5, really solid. This is like one of the worst movies we've ever
I think
talked
every
about
movie we talked about last time was at least interesting in some
Yeah.
level, and had like this movie is as bad.
This is like, I'm really curious to see when we talk about interesting, what we talk about maybe in the next few.
Yeah.
But this is by far like arguably one of the worst movies we've talked about on Film Frauds and
Yeah.
at all in any iteration. It's awful, truly awful, bad movie. Fuck, this sucked. Okay, we don't recommend. It sucks. Now it's my recommendation, right?
Yep.
Which one should I do? So I chose 2 movies. You know what? Because I don't know your thoughts on this one, and I think you watched it the most recently, I
Yeah.
recommended a movie by Walter Hill called The Driver.
Some of the criminal types these days, they think that they're real cowboys. Think that they can just drive around, do whatever they want to do, whenever they want to do it.
The reason I gotta find out what year it is real quick. The reason one, I know Walter Hill is a director. I've seen The Warriors. I've seen 48 Hours. They're both 48
I've
Hours
seen
is
48 Hours. I've not seen The Warriors.
Warriors is great. 48 Hours is like it's a buddy cop movie, but it's like a foundational buddy cop.
It was like pretty edgy, right? Like it has a lot of violence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of like oh my god, Nick Nolte and what's his name, Eddie Murphy. Like there's that like black cop, white cop kind of guy. Like
Yeah.
there's that dynamic there. But the reason I chose The Driver is the movie Drive, not to be all film bro, is arguably one of the most important movies for us, not just in film frauds, but like in our generation's upbringing, it was like the coolest fucking movie. It was like the smaller
It
indie
got me
movie.
into like artistic movies.
Yeah, it was one of my first like experience into like YouTube, like learning about like people diving in and
Chris
writing
Stuckman.
like
You watch Chris
Chris.
Stuckman's.
Yeah, and like I didn't know that was possible at the time. Like this is a foundational guy, Nick Winding Refn, like these like more auteur filmmakers. But Drive clearly has influences, whether it's Late Samurai, which I've seen, it's really good, and it's The Driver, 1978, directed by Walter Hill, a movie that is not on streaming anywhere. So take with that how we watched it as you will. I I have thoughts about it. I am very curious to see what you think about it. Matt, what did you think? Because this is the one I know what you think about my other movie, and
Yeah.
I know what you think about your other movie. I don't know what you think about this. What did you think about The Driver?
This is the best movie of the group for me.
Interesting. You think
Yes.
so?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Because I did not expect that because it's so non-character focused. What'd you like about it? Walk me through it.
So I think it's like I'm very mixed on this movie because the 90 minutes that I watched like flew by. I watched it Friday night and it flew by. But then like once it was over, I completely forgot that I'd watched it.
Okay.
So it's a movie that's going to be very interesting on a rewatch. I think the movie's greatest strength. First of all, like as someone who has seen Drive multiple times, like I like Drive owes this movie
Yeah. Even from like the
credit.
opening of like pulling out of like the parking garage. With
Yeah.
yeah. It like takes
Like
a
the
lot. From
silent protagonist who's like always like on top of everything.
Calm and collected. Yeah.
This movie was also on my watch list actually.
Oh, okay.
So like I'd heard of this movie before, and like I was happy that you recommended it 'cause it was on my watch list too. So like I technically got to clear out 3 movies from my watch list from this.
Oh,
The setting of this movie and the atmosphere is its greatest strength, I would
Yep.
say. I
LA.
love again, I just praise Cold in July for its nighttime settings. Like everything is like teal in this movie, like a dark teal, and like with like the LA lights, like kind of like twinkling. It's just I love the atmosphere of this
Yeah.
film and like watching like cars like zoom by and like what is otherwise like very mellow world was very cool. Cool. Yeah, that's the best description word I can think of. I liked the simplicity a lot, and I think for the most part the character like the actors do a really good job. It lacks stakes, I would say, and it lacks purposefully so, but also I would want more like character motivation. But I think Bruce Dern is like amazing in this movie
Yeah, he's
as
really
like
cool.
as like the crappy cop.
Have you ever seen what he looks like? That's the first time I've ever seen what he looks like young.
I think so. I think for me
I-
too, it's the first time I've ever seen
'Cause-
him look young.
Yeah, because all I know is like the cranky old man from like movies like 2000, like Nebraska kind of movies, or
Yeah,
like
or
Hateful Eight.
Hateful Eight.
Yep.
It's a movie where it's like I can't think of there's not much to talk about.
It's
But at the
weird,
same
isn't it?
time, like it's like listening to like a lo-fi track or something. Like when you're like doing work and you have like lo-fi music in, you're just
Yeah.
like vibing. I can't really put it in any other way.
I think I'm lower on this movie, yet I feel like I'd give it higher praise than that. Like
Okay.
there's like real like machismo, like balls to the wall, like insane like stunts in this movie.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
stunts and the
crime-
stunt choreography is
Yeah.
fantastic in this movie. You're
fucking
right. Yeah.
fantastic. Like if you want to, this is an interesting movie. And so the reason I chose this one is not because it's an influence for Drive, but because like any reception to this movie is fascinating. It bombed horrifically when it came out in theaters. It was everybody kind of just regarded it as like a whatever movie, and there's been a very interesting like reclamation project in it in like the past like 20 years with people being like, no, there's like a lot of like stripped down amazing like bare bones genre, but also like European, like French influence in its like simplicity. And it seems like it's the type of movie that the more we watch about like the history of cinema, or we learn about like European cinema, or like the foundations of it, it seems like it's a type of movie that everybody is just like, that movie fucks. Like the writer fucks hard. And us, when we're still in like the cocoon prepubescent phase of like learning about movies and going through it and kind of diving in, I would say we're still like hitting like an entry point. We watch a lot, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff here that I just missed because I don't know the influences. Like I can respect it on a level of like production, but like there's a lot of stuff I'm like, I'm pretty sure people like this because they know more about it, or about its influences in history. Then I'm just coming into it kind of cold. But like it doesn't dissuade from the fact that like it's a 90-minute like thrill ride. Like it
Yeah.
rocks. It flies by. In the stuff in the stunts and the some of the stuff you get in here is like there's that one shot when he's running away from the cops at the beginning when he's careening downhill and a car comes out in the middle of the road and the stunt drivers have to drive around it real fast, and it's
Yeah.
really simple, but it's like legitimately like holy fuck, like that's the type of stunt that someone like messes up and they die, feels like.
Yeah, exactly. Or like even when he's like wrecking the car in the
Yeah.
parking lot, like some of those turns, like he's missing the wall by centimeters.
Yeah, just enough. And
Yes.
it's really like balls in your stomach kind of like feeling sometimes. And it sucks that when the characters are outside of cars, it's just not that interesting.
It's passable. I would say
Passable.
it's like it's very non like whereas In the Shadow of the Moon is very melodramatic. This
Yeah.
movie's like the opposite of it, where it's just
Yeah.
like a believable conversation between like a low life criminal and a low life detective where they're not
Yeah.
saying anything that interesting. They're just
Yeah.
trying to survive, basically, say what they
exactly.
need to say and then get by. Who's the lead actor's name?
Ryan O'Neal, who's in Barry Lynn, who passed away recently too.
Yeah,
He
he
passed away
like
this
last
year.
August or something.
I think it was this year. I don't even
December.
think it was that.
Okay.
I think it was yeah.
He's the definition of cool.
He looks so cool in this
He does.
movie.
He looks so freaking cool.
Yeah.
This movie was on my watch list actually because I like Isabel Adjani a lot.
The actress, the main actress in it. Yeah.
I feel like because she's so amazing in Nosferatu the Vampire and in Possession.
She's the main lead in Nosferatu the Vampire.
Yeah, she's the girl in
Oh, I
Nosferatu
didn't
the
know
Vampire.
that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. She's really good in that movie.
I feel like her character is a more subdued. Like she does so much risky stuff in her movies,
Yeah.
especially in Possession. Oh my God,
I have to see that.
that
I've heard
movie
a lot about
is
that.
insane. She's actually my Letterboxd profile.
Is that
in-
her and
yeah,
your
in
Letterboxd profile?
Possession.
Okay.
Yeah, because that movie had a divine impact on me. And here it's like she's playing more of like a generic character, and
This?
yeah.
Okay.
I wish like she could have shown more of her acting chops.
Well, that's the
here.
thing is like everybody, Bruce Dern, Ryan O'Neal, and what's her name again?
Isabel Anjani.
Isabel and Johnny are all clearly very talented actresses, but there's nothing here for them. Like
I
Ryan
think
O'Neal
Bruce Dern has a lot to work with, actually. I would say Bruce Dern puts in a really good
but
performance.
he's not in the movie a lot. Like a large portions of the movie are just car chases. Like
But he's such a dickbag whenever he's on screen.
he is like he's got that
I
look.
loved
Yeah.
it. Like, yeah.
Yeah. He is really good. I'm surprised though that this is your favorite out of the bunch because what I don't want to we don't want to spoil anything yet, but what about it like really was elevated for you? Because to me this is like it's a good movie.
I would just
but
say
I'm
the
missing
atmosphere
something.
and like the crazy stunt work was the best part for me.
A best part for you.
Um,
Okay.
Even though the characters aren't that deep, I think like just like from their like what they wear and how they act, they all feel like they have like definitive
Yeah.
Traits that aren't like necessarily explicit. And just like again, like I just really enjoyed the vibe of what the movie was going for. I liked how and like as someone who likes Drive a lot, like seeing how Drive was influenced by this movie, it was fun to see.
Yeah.
Maybe this movie is more of like something that influenced a lot of movies rather than was influenced by a lot of movies.
I see like a mixed bag on that too, and that's what I find really compelling is like people praise it being stripped down, a stripped down genre film. Like it
Yeah.
really like there's not an ounce of fluff in this movie. The
No.
only scene where you're kind of like, what is this? Is when the detective goes to the room of the driver and is like, "What's up, bitch? Like, let's play a game." Kind of
Yeah.
like, and you're like, "How does he know?" He's like, "What is this?" Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
there's a lot of instances where people just know where the other characters are.
Like,
I'm
there's
like,
the
how did you know where the person was?
exactly, and it's
Yeah.
like the scene when we get introduced to the detective is when you have the scene with the driver at the opening, and you're like, "This is the coolest thing they've
Yeah.
opened a movie with ever." And then it's just like the cops are like, "Oh, it's that guy," and then they just have him, and you're like, "How'd you find out that who he is?" All your thing is like he's like mid-20s with like sandy wavy hair, and he's hot.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
like, and then they just have him, and they're like, he's like, "It's not me," and then the scene kind of ends, and they let him go, and you're like, "What?" Like it feels like there's like 15 minutes, but that's what people seem to like about it. I do respect it. Like there's
And like,
no,
yeah, his whole relationship with Isabel and Johnny, it's like they talked about this beforehand.
yeah, like it's all
I
planned
would say
and
the only fluff for me was the handler character, the one who does who like signs up the jobs for
oh
the
yeah, and
driver.
then yeah,
Like her character, and like when she dies, I was like, was I supposed to care? Like I
yeah, that's the thing.
like
It doesn't. It's pretty interesting. Did you like the scene at the end when they were like they stopped chasing it and they were like sulking around like cars like in a warehouse, like
yeah, it felt
quietly
like a horror
driving?
movie kind
Yeah,
of.
I know. I thought that was
That
really
was a
cool.
sick scene.
Yeah,
And like when they're both going at each other, and then like
yeah,
the car flips and like and goes into that ditch, like that
yeah.
was a crazy stunt. Um, yeah, a lot of cool stuff. It's a movie that I really want to rewatch because I wonder if like some of the more subtle aspects will be more explicit on a rewatch, like if I'll get more out of it, or because yeah, there's people who just like champion this movie,
Yeah, there's
and
like
it's cool to see.
like 5 stars. Like this is the best movie of the 7. Not actually, but like
It seems like a movie that's like a prototype to what would eventually be great in like later like driving focused action movies.
okay,
Like it set the groundwork, maybe. That's like
yeah,
my speculation, but yeah, who
probably. I
knows?
mean, it's honestly, this is the type of movie though. Like we clearly both recommend it.
Yeah,
It's if you just want, but like it's I don't know why the rights are so hard to stream. Like it's not available anywhere. You can't even buy it on
yeah,
Amazon or rent it on
I
Amazon.
know. It's
So
crazy.
take with that as you will. But yeah, honestly, like it's definitely I would say it's probably my second favorite. It's probably tied with
Okay.
another movie for my second favorite one out of the bunch. I would say so.
Yeah.
So would you recommend this movie?
Yes,
I would
absolutely.
I would too. It's fun.
Yeah,
I was like that was like thoroughly impressed. Like it ended, I was like, all right, like this is what this series is for. Like I would have never watched this
I know. Yeah,
without this.
exactly.
So it's pretty cool. Um
So next up, my other pick, continuing my European Revolution series,
yeah.
The Wind That Shakes the Barley.
I do solemnly swear that to the best of my ability, I will support and defend the government of the Irish Republic.
Did you see our position when you came over the crest of that hill? You did not? You were looking down at your shoes? There'd be clean shoes on your corpse.
Starring Cillian Murphy, who just won Best Actor at
Or
the
what movie? Your
Oscars.
favorite movie, Matt? What movie? Say it.
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer, yeah.
McCarthyism is bad for 3.5 hours. Um,
Hey. Yeah.
I mean I like Oppenheimer. I like my issue. It's not as disingenuous as Killers of the Flower Moon. As Killers of the Flower Moon purely exists to inflate the egos of white people and to take. But that's Oppenheimer exists for. I'm not saying anything controversial. That's just what it is. That's just what it's for.
Yeah, I just don't want to.
I want the movie to be made by Native Americans. I don't want Martin Scorsese to make this movie.
I'm not saying I'm not saying what you're saying is controversial. I just don't want any of the heat that may
Okay.
come from your.
Well, no one watches this, so okay, film
Hey,
pros.
but one day when they come back and they'll be like, "That was so wrong."
Film pros don't go outside, so they don't know what Native American reservations look like right now. So doesn't matter. They're wrong. But anyway, The Wind That Shakes the Barley.
That's a great take. Film bros don't go outside, so how could they know anything is wrong? Is a great take. Okay, I
It's
like
right.
that. It's not. You're not wrong. Yeah, I don't go outside.
They need Sean Fennessy to tell them that the
You
movie
mean Mike
is
King?
worthwhile.
I can't wait
Yes.
for you to see you in person next time, and I just have a Sean Fantasy tattoo, just his face on my ass. I love him. I worship him, or him over my heart. Yeah.
Killer Slumber Moon sucked. But other than that, when the Shakes the Barley came out in 2007, it is about 1920s Ireland, the Irish resistance to British occupation.
2006. Came out in
It says
2006.
2007 on Wikipedia, you
I see
idiot.
2006
March
on
16th,
Letterboxd.
2007,
I see
in the
2006.
USA.
Oh, okay, fine.
God, like you just interrupt me for no reason at all.
I just
Because
like when
you're
you.
wrong.
Yeah. Fuck you. Okay.
I
so
give clear critique of Killers of the Flower Moon. You go, it's wrong. I'm like, why is it wrong? You're like, I don't know, because Sean Fantasy told me it's a masterpiece.
It's not
And
my
I say
favorite movie of the
1
year.
year wrong. You go, actually, it's a year before.
Actually, how dare you? Okay, what did I
So
interrupt you?
stop talking. Let me explain what this movie's about. Thank you. Um,
Just shut the fuck up, you idiot.
it's about like a small Irish community resisting British occupation because at the time Ireland was part of the UK, basically. And this is towards the end of British occupation, and it basically follows Irish resistance as they kick the British occupation out, and then sort of have to decide among themselves what the F they're supposed to do with potential free rule. And so yeah, it stars Cillian Murphy and another actor who's not Cillian Murphy, whose name is Padraig Delaney, as two brothers in this small Irish town as they sort of spearhead like resistance against the British. At what point did you realize this was a Matt movie? Because I feel like within the first 5 minutes, you're like, this kid's not going to shut up about the Wind That Shakes the Barley. When they're playing Gaelic
Yeah.
football at the start.
Yeah, like when they open it and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, my boy, oh, boy. I would say the first time I was like, this is a Matt movie is like when they kill Michele.
Yes.
And I was like, that's the most Irish name ever. And it was like, and they're all like angry and sad about the oppression. And I was like,
And they're speaking Gaelic to each
yeah,
other.
no, it's a Matt movie. It was like within like 8 minutes. I was like, yep, here we go. What'd you think of it? Yeah, this is your choice. How'd you process
I think it's
all
really
this?
solid. I don't think it's amazing.
Okay.
I think I gave it 4 to 5 stars. I think it's really good.
Yeah.
I liked it more for its like look at like the meaning of Irishness, Irish culture, like the bureaucracy of revolution, more than like any of the characters. The characters are all run of the mill. Like they like Cillian Murphy. It commits one of the cardinal sins for me in movies. And Kills the Flower Moon does this as well, where there's one scene where the guy and the girl meet, and then the next scene they're just like, oh, we're in love now. And it's like what do you talk about besides
Revolution.
like they
yeah.
don't talk about anything. They're just in love for no reason. The
Yeah,
most
there's-
egregious example is Exodus Gods and Kings, where Christian Bale literally looks at the girl, and then the next scene they're getting married.
They're married, yeah, and they have a kid, and you're like,
And then
where did
she's
this come
gone from the movie.
Yeah, she's gone, yeah, because he leaves and he never comes back. Yeah, and you're like, all right.
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot about that movie. That movie sucks.
Yeah, it's an awful movie. The character work is nothing special here, but I think the movie's most interesting when it's like people in a room talking about something as small as like, do we let the businessman win the lawsuit against his old lady because he's the supplier of all of our guns?
Yeah,
Or do we do the morally right thing and let the old lady off free
Yeah.
and have the businessman pay? Like that stuff was most interesting to me. As someone who's not as learned in Irish history,
Yep.
what did you think about this movie? Like, did things make sense to you?
It made sense to me.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I feel like you read my When the Shakes That Barley review on Letterboxd. It's pretty shocking how my pros and cons of this movie are almost identical to Flame and Citron.
Yeah.
Where they're movies with that explore elements of what revolution, martyrdom, like dying for a cause, living for a cause do to people. Flame and Citron focuses more on like the personal aspects of it, especially with Mads Mikkelsen's character. Like this is like the stress, the turmoil, the impact on family, the impact on loved ones. And this one focuses more on the behind the scenes. There's a couple really great scenes, and my favorite scenes of the movie are like when like, not to spoil it, but eventually like there's a treaty signed and a lot of the people just want peace. They just want to live. They just want to eat food and have a job and just survive. And that ultimately becomes a divide between the two groups. But like when the priest is like, everybody shut the fuck up, like get out of my fucking church. And he's like,
Yes.
but because like in 1920s Ireland and for a long point in human history, like the church's power, like the church is a symbol.
Yeah.
That is a voice of the representative is like regardless in 2024, 100 years later, it's a little different, but like that.
Although seemingly
talking
coming back to that point again.
Yeah, we seem to be arguing back a little bit, but like those people had power and they had a voice and they had impact and they had ways in which they shaped the communities and those little tiny divides and I thought were really great. But like I struggle these movies in my mind struggle to establish stakes. Because it does the same thing that Flame and Citron does where it talks about and shows like these revolutionary people like committing and fighting back, and yet there are like scenes later where they're just out and about in the daytime and they're just like they are these figures and they're these staple heads like Teddy O'Donovan, Damien O'Donovan. They are known names by the soldiers, yet they kind of just like escape and then they just are never hunted again. Like, and I know that there is probably points in history where like either it was the end of the British, like the hands, they're probably leaving. The resources are low, but the movie doesn't do a great job of conveying that, which makes me think, is this a movie for like, do I have to know more about Irish history to know this movie? And then I put that kind of on a fault in the movie because it's like it doesn't convey the importance of the stakes. Like I had that issue with Flame and Citron where it's like these two are the baddest, like we have to get them. They're wanted #1, and yet their scenes are just like at a pub. And
Yeah.
it's a lot like this too, where you're like Teddy O'Donovan, the guy, he escaped prison, he's here. And then the next, there's like 40 minutes.
Yeah, and like all the
houses.
guards just decided to leave and left like the one Irish guard in charge who was like the
Yeah.
most likely to rebel.
Exactly.
and
He's like
turn
that.
against them and let
Yeah.
everyone go.
And it's stuff like that just like takes me out of the movie. And you're right, like the characters are solid. They're not great. They're solid. Their arcs are solid. So then you're kind of left with like the interesting parts of the movie aren't as much. It's more of the back half. So you're left with like a 2-hour movie where like $1.15, $1.20 of it is stuff, and you're like, I don't really know what a lot of this is like for. Like,
I think a lot of it was to show like what I liked about this movie. First of all, like I do think it's
good.
It's from a directing standpoint, like I liked a lot of the visuals. Like I love the scene where it's like all fog on this cobblestone path, and you just hear them singing like Gaelic war songs as they come into view.
Yeah.
Through the fog you do. And just like I love the brutality of like people being executed in front of like the Irish Hills outside.
Yeah.
It's like such a beautiful expanse, but like people are being murdered at the same time.
Yeah.
And like those scenes where Cillian Murphy is just like struggling to pull the trigger basically.
Yeah.
Because he's executing people in cold blood. But he had like from his nationalistic standpoint, he feels like he has to do it.
Yeah.
I think it does raise interesting questions about nationalism. Like I like how when the Irish factions start turning against each other, it gets way more mucky as to who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. Especially because like Cillian Murphy sort of instigates violence against Irish people.
The Free State, like the Free State people, yeah.
And they didn't get everything that they wanted from the British and their deal, but at the same time, it's like that dilemma of like, we got enough, and is this better than fighting each other? But at this point, Cillian Murphy is so obsessed with nationalism that is he in the wrong at this point? Because his crime, his actions after that point only lead to more death and like pointless death. Like Davos Seaworth gets killed, and
Davos Seaworth, he does get. He also dies, and you're like, and they're like done, and you're like, who just died? And like,
I was like, oh wait, is that Davos?
That's when I pulled up Letterboxd, and I was like, who's Dan? Oh, it's that guy. I was like, okay.
So I liked it from like a political standpoint. I think it just like some of the character stuff I thought was sort of just like contrived, like with the scene where he's walking in like the little valley with his girlfriend, and they fall in love there because there needs to be a romantic love interest in the movie.
Yeah. Not developed. It's not.
The movie's just definitely at its best when it's doing like the actual like political side of it. And I did like the action too. Like I like how because they're not trained soldiers. Like they're kind of like they're all like dressed up and they have little Irish hats on, their
Yeah.
little suits, and they have their machine guns. They're like,
Yeah,
okay,
and-
we're gonna shoot these people when they
Yep.
cross the road.
Yeah, there's that great scene where it's like they're like training and they're like, y'all be dead, like
Yeah,
dead, and you're like, oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know. This is the weird one. Honestly, out of all the movies, this is the one I was like, I don't like all like In the Shadow of the Moon sucks.
Yeah.
Drive is the Driver is an interesting movie. We'll talk about the other one after, but like this is the one where I'm like, man, when Cillian Murphy is allowed to act, that man is really good. But then like,
Yeah. He's much better than this than Oppenheimer.
no, he's not. He does have a couple more scenes of like, there's that
Where he
one
actually has to show emotion and like other than, oh my God, I'm on trial for McCarthyism, but I only went to one communist thing. Why is this happening? Why are there so many famous actors, like B-level actors in this movie? Because Christopher Nolan has infinite budget and can do whatever he wants. And yet
Oppenheimer's my favorite movie last
this is
year.
the
He's
best
so
set
great
you
in
could
this
create
movie.
for a trial. This is not nearly as good as Anatomy of a Fall.
Wow, it's just swinging for all the just swinging dicks around.
The
for all
Dubrow
best
Army is
things.
going to be so mad at me because I have some knowledge of history and have seen Native American reservations right now, and I understand that Hollywood isn't going to make them any better.
I mean, you're not wrong about that. Yeah, that's yeah. I
No,
can't really
Oppenheimer's good. Oppenheimer's a good
Yeah.
movie.
It's also just long.
It's not. It's what?
It's long. Maybe that's why too. It's 3 hours.
Yeah, I can't think of any 3-hour movies that I like. To be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. So when the wind shakes, so like there is genuinely great scenes. I do like when the Chris boy, and then he has to be like I've known him all my life, but you have to kill him. And he's just like always like, give me your papers. And he's like, I don't have any. Like my mom can't read. Just tell me where she's buried. And you have that great scene later.
Just
where
tell,
she's
just tell her I love her.
yeah, just tell her I love her. Tell her I'm buried. And there's that great scene where what's it called? Damien goes. He's like, I went to his mom and we walked for 6 hours silent. And then I got there and she basically told me to fuck off and like never talk to me again.
Yeah.
Like, and you get that scene later in the movie where spoiler for when wind shakes the wind in the barley. When Cillian Murphy, but when Cillian Murphy is eventually executed, and Teddy, his brother, goes to Sinead, and he's like, "We had to do it." Yeah, sorry. She's like, "Get the fuck."
That was a great scene. That like the Teddy's performance there, I thought was great. Where he's like,
really
he's like, look.
He's crying.
Yeah,
and it's like you're like, oh man.
That was I felt that in my testicles. Yeah, that one hurt.
That one. I don't know. Like it's a movie that
it's like the sum of its parts are better than the whole. I feel like. It's like I'm talking about all these things that I love about it, but at the same time, it's not like this amazing 5-star movie for me.
No, it's not. And I really think it's because a lot of these historical epics, I think, struggle with when they're broader. Because this movie rides itself on like the dynamic between these two brothers, but the dynamic between the two brothers is about 45 minutes in. And then it's like, oh yeah, that's my brother Teddy. And you're like, what? Oh my God. But like a lot of this movie and what I think historical epics like the struggle when they talk about the bigger picture is like there's often not a lot of like focus, and it's a lot of telling you about like we only have 31 guns, and it's like didn't seem like that. Like it's not a lot is conveyed. They talk about the armory, but there's a lot of scenes of a lot of people firing. It's just like there's a lot of telling us that things are important, a lot of telling us rather than like focusing on it and showing it, and you get this broader look with a character arc of like a guy who wants to leave but realizes it's his duty to stay, and he falls further and further into nationalism until eventually he dies at the hand of his own brother because he refuses to give up because he doesn't think Ireland should be completely annexed and completely free. And that stuff is cool. But it's just like it's 2 hours and a lot of it's kind of dull. Like it just is. Like
I would say, especially when it tries to be like the generic like war movie where like again like the love interest and like some of the attempts at like I kind of wish it was just like completely like cold detached, like people like arguing about like the bureaucratic issues, and then they cuts to violence, and then like that I think that stuff would have made it better, like just completely get rid of like the romance and things like that. It would have made it more interesting. But alas, I still enjoyed it, and I would still recommend people to watch it.
Same here. There are stuff of like I would also recommend it. And there's stuff like when Teddy O'Donovan is tortured and like the nails are ripped out. I was like, that
was awful. Like I was
like,
hated it. Yeah.
I was like, that's impressive. I was like, I did not expect the movie to be that like violent, but then it's immediately followed by the scene of like the guy being like, "I won't have your death of my conscience. They're all gone. Go bye." And you're just like,
Yeah.
"Wait, why would
We
they be
left the
looking at
one
these people?"
soldier who's most likely to rebel.
Yeah. Who clearly is Irish.
To watch all these like really valuable enemies of the
Yeah.
British state.
This extremely redheaded man is not going to turn on.
Yeah, with an Irish accent who's also 16.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to turn on us. And I just don't
I also
understand-
loved it when he had the keys for the last cell. They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you like they think they're gonna break free, and they're like,
Yeah.
we gotta go."
Yeah, we gotta put. They're like, you fuck, and then, but then it cuts to like they're riding on a horse, like in a cart. I'm like, they clearly couldn't have. How big is Ireland?
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
just
yeah.
send. It's like the British have trucks. Just drive around and shoot them if they're bad guys. Like, it's just like I don't want to like just like downplay like the struggle for Irish independence at the time, but
Yes.
like you can't have like these people in trucks with like a lot of
I was
guns
like,
and a lot of
"Nuke 'em."
people. Just nuke, like, what are you doing? Like, don't say these people are dangerous and then just have like 4 scenes of them like in a pub. I don't know.
Yeah, like casually having a beer while all these like these young Irish men are in the other room, and you're sitting there casually having a beer.
Yeah, I don't know. It was
I mean, it's like maybe it's like a pride thing. Like, oh, they're not gonna do anything. Like,
but
we're
they do. There are multiple scenes of them showing like storming into people's houses. Like they do something a lot
Yeah.
in the movie. A big tension of the scene is like they're driving into like these women and children houses and like
yeah,
like throwing them at, like, you know,
Yeah,
historical
that's
epics.
true.
What's the in our next episode of this? What's the third revolutionary historical epic?
I don't want to say yet.
You don't want to say it
I gotta
yet?
think about it. Yeah,
You got to think about it. Okay, the Matt trifecta of revolutionary historical epics
yeah,
that are
in
like
Europe.
or that are decent movies that
Yeah,
have
that are 2 hours
flaws.
long and don't do with the actual conflict justice.
Flame and Citron though, do you like this one or Flame and Citron more?
I would say I like this one more. Um, I would say I was like less bored watching this movie. I don't know, like I gave this movie a higher review than Flame and Citron, but also at the same time I feel like Flame and Citron are better characters.
I think Mads Mikkelsen, if you put him up against like what's the best out of the bunch, Mads Mikkelsen takes like the #1 slot. Like out of the 2 movies, he's by far the
Yeah.
best out of all of it. And then Cillian Murphy,
Yeah,
and then probably like
I think Teddy's better than Flamin.
I think so too.
Yeah.
He's I mean that for that scene alone at the end, like that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Um,
that scene is great, and also when he becomes the more rational nationalist,
Yeah.
like I liked that stuff a lot.
Like the like he's like, you're a
He's more of a
politician.
politician, like he understands. He's not so much of an idealist where he's like, okay, he's like the leader of the faction, but then he becomes sort of the more bureaucratic one where it's like, yeah, I mean, like we can't make this businessman our enemy because he's literally the reason why we're able to rebel in the first place.
Yeah. That's a good scene too, because
Yeah.
it's like it's not like it's some like young like other business guy. It's like an elderly woman.
Yeah.
And they're like, we have to show justice for her. And it's like, we need to pay for our guns. Like he'll pay for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. I recommend it too. Why
Mm.
why was this one on your watch list, by the way? Just because it's
Ireland.
Ireland. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Wait. All right, Matt.
Ireland.
Ireland. Let's go. Boston. Matt, speaking of independence, my final movie that I chose is a movie called Bad Lieutenant.
Every so often, the limits of screen acting are redefined and expanded. Harvey Keitel has given the kind of performance a generation is defined by.
By 1990, oh shit,
1992,
I think movie.
1, 2.
Let me find out. 1992 movie by Abel Ferrara, starring Harvey Keitel. You ever hear about this movie before?
Yes, I've heard of this movie before. Why was it on your watch list?
It's been on my watch list for years, and it's solely because I've seen that scene before of Harvey Keitel naked, like weeping, and just being like, "What is this?" Like, but also
You're like, this is really weird. How did
Yeah,
how did we get
it's
to this point?
it's just so traumatized and hot. I gotta be honest though, a part of me also put this on my watch list because I confused it with the other movie called Death Wish with Charles Bronson,
Oh my god.
which was remade into a Bruce Willis action movie. So yeah, I mainly because I heard it was good, but also because I kind of confused it with another movie. And
All
I
right, Tyler, take it away. What happens in this movie? Because this is your choice. I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna enjoy the show as you navigate this plot and the things that happen in this movie.
So
All the Looney Tunes shenanigans that occur.
Did you know anything about this movie going into it?
I looked at the plot synopsis. I did not know it would go to the extremes that it goes to.
Yeah. Did you watch this with your family in the house?
No,
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't
no.
either.
I was
So
home alone. That's the only way you can watch this movie.
so this is a movie about a lieutenant. He is not named
A bad lieutenant.
a bad lieutenant. Yes, he's just called Lieutenant, whatever, played by Harvey Keitel. And you see him, and he's introduced, and he is clearly has a drug problem and a gambling problem. And
There's a
you
crime scene going on, and all they can focus it on is the playoff games.
is the playoff games, is the Mets
Yeah.
Dodgers World Series where the
Yeah.
Mets were down 3-0 and they came back and won. And what you follow is a man who falls deeper and deeper into degeneracy and insanity, but at the same time reckoning with his own religious guilt.
Yes.
It's a very pro-Catholic movie, which I was not expecting.
Yeah.
And the catalyst for a lot of this movie is a nun is raped by two young boys, and he's on the case, and he basically has to reconcile with his own Catholic absolutism and like absolving of his own sins, with his drug addiction, with forgiveness, with his absolute degeneracy. It's a really weird movie. It's a movie that I have never before been like, yo, I gotta watch some interviews, which I did not do because I wanted our discussion to be as earnest as possible on a first watch through. I didn't do any research on this movie.
Oh, I'm sure that's why you didn't do any research.
There are long.
Kyle, you're doing research to begin with. Why would you say you do research?
This was I do research. I listen to podcasts.
He listens to Sean Fennessy, and then he writes down everything Sean Fennessy thought, and then
Yep.
he goes, "Okay."
Yeah, I write it down
And
on a
he's ready.
post-it note, and then I turn in a 3-circle, and I look at it. I'm like, I wrote that. That's my thought.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, so Tyler, what'd you think of the characters in Civil War? And he goes, give me 1 second. He goes, characters.
Fuck.
I thought that they were very well developed.
Yeah.
and-
Sean Fennessy. I say that. Listen, this is another one of those movies that everybody I see has given it 5 stars, praising it as a deep, depraved character study, which in some regards, I do think it is a very, very fascinating look at that. But at the same time, I watched this on a Thursday at 10 a.m. in the morning, and I got to be honest, when the sun's shining through and you're trying to get, and you're just like, it's like 10 a.m.
You're
on
watching
a
on your
Thursday.
laptop, and like the
No,
sun's reflecting all the smears
All
on your
the shit.
laptop.
And you're like, man.
You're like, what's going on?
What's going on in there over my giant handprint when I thought my computer was a touchscreen and never
Yeah,
wiped it?
You try to wipe it with your hand,
Like,
and it just makes
fuck. It makes
a
it
bigger
worse.
stain, and it blinds you a little bit.
I'm like, oh, why is he pulling over 2 girls now? What is this? Yeah, this is definitely a type of movie that I think is like a victim of like my mindset in time watching it. Watching it 10 a.m. on a Thursday. I had been up since 4:45. I just went to jujitsu. I'd gotten beaten up. It was a good class, but I was exhausted. It's a good movie. It's got pros, it's got some cons.
Do you think the movie tries too hard?
Yes, by far.
Okay.
But like, okay, so I want to know what you think. I read your review, but like I don't really like you kind of gave like I wanted a more in depth because it's a short movie. It's 90 minutes. I picked these 2 movies because they're short fucking movies. What'd you think of it?
Harvey Keitel is amazing.
Yes.
He adds credibility to a movie that I think doesn't deserve it at times. I think it's exploitational just for the sake of being exploitational. And as I've said with other movies that go to like really low lows, if you have like the substance behind it, I'm usually okay with where you go. Like for example, Cold in July goes to low lows, arguably lower lows than this movie with some of its stuff. At times,
Yeah.
they handle similar subjects, I guess I should say. I'm so conflicted because I feel like the stuff with the nun adds like nuance to the movie, apart from being like it's like a generic like gritty detective. I'm gonna do a bunch of bad stuff, but like I'm doing it because like that's just who I am in justice, so it's all forgivable. But there's also not enough of the nun where I feel like the nuance I think that it has is on purpose necessarily.
Okay.
Um, some of the shots of the nun, like I like it when it's like when she's in the confession, and
Yeah.
like that's like a really great scene. And like the one scene she has with Harvey Keitel when they're before he breaks down, I think is great. Where it's like he's someone who like just like is so angry at the world,
Yeah.
and seeing how she just like not shrugs up but finds way to forgive like the most heinous act someone commit to somebody.
She was raped by
Shoot her.
two. Yeah, she was raped by
Yeah,
two young boys, and then with a
with
crucifix
with
as well.
crucifix.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing that bad ever happened to Harvey Keitel's character, and yet she's able to not shrug off, but find forgiveness to them.
Yeah.
And he just can't understand that because like he's someone who takes everything so personally. Like he literally shoots his radio because the Dodgers can't close out the
Yeah.
Mets.
He keeps losing bets. Yeah.
Yes. Um, so that stuff I thought was good. I wish there was more of it and less of show me how you suck cock, show me how you suck cock, show me how you do it, show me, show me. Like that stuff is when I'm like, okay, it's just like the director's fetish, and we're just watching it play out
Okay.
under the illusion that this is art and this is character development.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
it's a weird movie. It's
complicated.
like I haven't really thought about it since I watched it, which is like the problem.
That's mine too. I have like
Yes.
I've thought more about the driver, and I've thought about more of honestly in the shadow of the moon than anything
Yeah.
else. This is like an issue with it I have is it again, victim of the circumstance for me, victim of the time watching it, but like scenes go on for a long time. It's a 90-minute movie, and it's a movie that clearly is very purposely trying to trap you in this hellscape. There's that scene that we're talking about, the honestly probably a very iconic. There's multiple scenes that I have heard about. It's the one where he has a threesome with two prostitutes and then is like drinking and like weeping naked. Like, and there's like the look of anguish, and you're like, wow, he's
You get full front
great.
of Harvey Keitel.
Yeah, you're like, wow, that's penis. I mean, that's really great acting. He's genuinely really great in it. And when he breaks down later in the end of the movie and he's like begging for forgiveness from Jesus,
Yeah.
he's also really great. But like there's a couple scenes, even one later, when he's like taking heroin towards the end of the movie. And it's like really drawn out, and I understand the intention of it. But man, sometimes these scenes when they're just not working and just like you can't fundamentally explain why you're just kind of like you're like just kind of disassociating from it. When you're on like minute 4 of him pulling over two girls and like
Yeah.
masturbating, and then he ends it with like, "You guys drive safe." And I bet I understand the cruel bit of irony that's supposed to be there. The like the really, really dark humor of like doing that and being like, "All right, you ladies drive safe. Have a nice night." Like I get it, but man, sometimes it's like really hard to stick with it. And I don't know what that says about me as a film watcher, or if that speaks more to like circumstances of watching it. If this is the type of movie I learn more about, like maybe
I think
like
because it just lacks the substance that you would want.
you think so? You think it's a
I think
substance?
so. I think it's a substance
Do you
for
think
me
you would have
personally.
enjoyed this movie more trapped in like a theater? Like you go to see this in a theater, you
I think I would have enjoyed it more if it was longer and we got more of his like family life.
because he only has like 2 scenes with his family really, and they're
Yeah.
both like not important because
This is a movie where I feel like if it was longer, I would have liked it more. And wasn't so hell bent on being edgy and to being edgy for as long as it is.
yeah.
Because like again, my biggest dilemma with this movie is like I don't know how much of like the exploitation stuff has substance behind it and how much is just there like just to be for shock value and to like get people curious about the movie like
Because
when it came out.
it all leads to like this is where I'm like, oh, the first 70 minutes I'm like, shock, not like shock exploitation, but like clear like exploitation, like dark stuff that
Yeah.
leads to the final 20 minutes, which it reveals itself to be like I know it reveals itself because people who are a lot smarter than I am probably like, yeah, it's clearly a pro-Catholic movie. But like it leads to that final 20 minutes where you realize it's a very pro-Catholic movie, a very
Yeah.
pro like forgiveness and absolving of sins and moving past and trying to see if you can do better. And it leads to that because I understand like that final 20 minutes. If you're with Harvey Keitel when he's breaking down, begging this vision of Jesus that he sees for forgiveness, he's weeping, he's sorry, he's talked with a nun. Those final 70 minutes up to it, if you're in it, like you go to the lowest of lows and you try to get him back up. I could see the impact of it. And for me, it was like the final 20 minutes of me like elevated this movie to
It's
being
very good. The
yeah.
final 20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what elevated it to this being probably my favorite movie of the bunch we watched is like there's a point I really liked it. I thought it was really bold to go with this. And I was like, okay, like I'm in. Like I wish there was more of it sprinkled in, like you said, more
Yeah.
with the nun, more of this like leading into this like forgiveness. And 70 minutes wasn't built up to him being like this garbage, awful, like vindictive, like kind of rapist human being, with massive, massive issues. Only for it to end with him. The cruel bit of irony is he has forgiveness. What does he do? He finds the two people that raped the nun.
Yeah, and then
and
he puts them on a bus to get out of the city.
and gives them money and is like
Yeah.
starting like I'm forgiving you, and he's like crying. He's like
Yeah.
angry. Like could see it. He's really good, and then he gets shot and killed at the end because some sins. I
He's
feel
too
like
pure for this world.
no, it's not too pure. I feel like some sins can't be forgiven. Is that oh yeah, he's too pure. His actions are too. He's too good of a man now. Some actions can't be forgiven. I think is maybe the point. Like,
Okay.
is that what do you think?
I interpret as him like he's too like he found forgiveness, so now it's like when Mary just goes to heaven with that, like in the Bible, like Mary just ascends to heaven. That's like
Okay.
how I interpret it.
Where you like he has
Where it's like he
forgiven
just
himself.
dies immediately, and then I that's just how I saw it. Like he's gone through his forgiveness arc, so now God is gonna bring him to heaven. That's just how I saw
That's
it.
what you thought, yeah.
I think an underrated aspect of this movie is the humor, which is amazing at times. Like the scene where he wakes up from his drunken slumber to the baseball game going on, and
Yeah.
it's like the Dodgers just hit a 3-run home run.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, here we go." But
Yeah.
too bad they're down. They're down
Yeah.
4-11.
Yeah, he's like, oh.
And then by game 6, like he just knows he's gonna lose the
Yeah,
bet, and he like when the game's over, he's just like walking around like
Yeah, it's just I do like though. I mean, I didn't expect this to be such like centered around like a pro baseball movie too.
I know.
Really, the highs and lows of baseball, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah. It's very well directed, and like the setting is good. It just is a movie that for all like the dark places it goes to, it's not that memorable or not that long lasting for me.
Yeah, I wonder, do you ever like see yourself trying to check out anything else by Abel Ferrara by watching this again? Like
I
what do
would
you
watch
think?
this again. I'm curious about Albufera, but I don't think this hasn't sold me to go out of my way to watch his movies, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. I mean, I want to learn more about him. Like I want to check out more. Maybe we do another Abel Ferrara movie for our next one. There's another one called King of New York, which I've heard is really good.
King in New York?
King of New York.
King of New York. Okay. Oh yeah, I saw that on his Letterboxd thing.
Yeah. I've heard that one's really good too. Yeah, odd choice of movies we had. There's like I don't really know what to think of our choices and what they say.
I think
about
the
us.
theme of this is like struggling to remember.
Memory.
Like nothing
yeah.
really had a profound impact on us, I think, this time around.
Are there any similar themes? So let's see. We had In the Shadow of the Moon, detective, sci-fi, time travel, man obsessed. Bad Lieutenant is man on a hell mission.
Obsession, I would say, is
yeah. Oh, look at that. Yeah.
Is the thematic linking.
Obsession and focus. Look at us.
Yeah.
I think next one we do, I'm definitely gonna try diversify, not do 2 90-minute like machismo
movies.
Yeah, like man movies. Like try to get something a little bit different, something a little more fun. Because right now I'm shooting. The Long Goodbye was fun. The Cure is slower.
Yeah,
it was really fucking good. I'm gonna rewatch that soon. And then 2 grungy fucking movies.
Yep.
But this was awesome. If you had to rank them just real quick out of the 4.
The Driver, When the Shakes the Barley, Bad Lieutenant, in the Flower of Under the Moon.
In the Flower Under the Moon. I'd probably do Bad Lieutenant. When the Wind Shakes the Barley and The Driver are tied for me. Okay. I got like dead even. And then In the Shadow of the Moon. Both are eclipsed by The Cure and Long Goodbye. I really loved.
None will be as good as Rebel Moon's Scargiver.
Scargiver. Which, are you going to watch that? Since you love the first one.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it.
Love the first one. You are?
Love it.
You bitch. That movie sucks. Okay, we'll be back with another episode of one of our favorite movies, one of your favorite movies, when we do a Super Mario Classic. With Furiosa coming out, we're gonna do Mad Max Fury Road. It's time.
Yes.
I'm gonna watch this on the biggest TV possible. I'm going to be fully erect during it too.
Yep.
And then you and I are gonna go see Furiosa. We're gonna hold hands and walk into the theater. Do you know? Did you see what George Miller said? That there was a 15-minute action sequence that was that he's like, nobody has filmed. Everybody who worked on it was like, it was the longest thing we've ever filmed. 15-minute action sequence. We are in.
We need to watch this on the biggest screen possible.
We'll find we'll go.
Yeah, we'll do it at my theater because
we'll do it at your theater. We could go to an IMAX. We could try to see IMAX.
Oh yeah, we could do that one. Yeah, I think
that,
IMAX would be ideal. Actually,
do you think that cripple our ears though?
I don't care. It'd be worth it. This could be the last George Miller Mad Max movie we ever have. I don't care. It'll be worth it.
All right, Matt. Go Celtics.
Yeah.
Can I criticize one thing about basketball real quick?
No.
I hate the mic'd up. I think it's the dumbest thing on the planet. Where
Is that when they interview like the players? What is?
No, it's like this player's been mic'd
when they
up
have
for the game.
when they hear him. I love that. You don't like that?
No, because it's always like I want to because they clearly choose like what they do. Because I was always
obviously they choose. Yeah.
But I want to hear the players be like, "You motherfucker, you piece of shit."
They can't play that part. Yeah.
Why not? I don't want to hear Jalen Brunson on the Knicks be like, "Yeah, good ball, good pass."
Yeah, clearly. Whoever breaks Jimmy Butler's ankle gets 50 grand.
Joel Embiid, if he has a knee at the end of this game, everybody's dying. Like, kill his knee, rip him a new one. Like, just give it cripple Jimmy Butler.
That was definitely muttered at one point during that game.
That's why I don't want mic'd up. I just want the earnest NBA experience. Maybe
you get that on Twitter though.
I get that too.
Yeah, people's real thoughts on Twitter.
Oh man. All right, Matt, this was fun. We'll be back again. We'll probably do this one more time during the summer. I'm gonna really brainstorm on movies this time. Like I'm gonna try to get some weird shit.
Okay.
Some controversial shit.
All right.
All right, Matt. This is fun. Thank you guys for listening or watching. Matt, I love your name. Tyler watched 3 movies in one day. Doesn't remember any of them. Mine is Matt likes movies about revolution. ... at FBI. Where you at? I think mine's funnier. Thank you. All right. This is fun, Matt. Thank you for joining me as I drag you along and you drag me along. I'm just rambling now.
Arm in arm.
Arm in arm. Thank you guys for listening. This has been fun. You can check us out everywhere. And fuck you and goodbye.